Tim Kirby Russia hot takes. Has Russia solidified NATO like never before? The media keeps trying to spin this narrative that because Russia went in to save its people in the Donbass, that has caused NATO and Europe to come together, and everything in the West is so solid, so in lockstep like never ever before.
What I found was the greatest solidarity among NATO members and others, actually, that I've seen since I went there as a young major as a speechwriter for the Supreme Allied Commander during the Cold War.
And guess what, Putin? You're going to get a lot of blowback. This is all your fault, and you've actually re-strengthened this NATO organization that you've criticized so much.
Did Putin help NATO?
Oh, of course he did. He's the greatest gift to NATO since the end of the Cold War. He set out to make Russia great again. What he's really done is make NATO great again.
In fact, apparently even the neutral Finns and Swedes are starting to rethink their neutrality and want to sort of scurry together and join NATO. Now, after 8 years of there being a war in Europe that no one cared about, for a few weeks there's been a war in Europe that people do care about, and it would seem that the NATO countries have sort of solidified. But the thing is that when it's really these sort of vassal, basically puppet leaderships that solidify around each other, does that really make a difference? Does that really make NATO that popular? Because there's even countries like Hungary that are saying that they really don't want to participate in these sanctions. It's like, yeah, the war's bad, but please, Russia, let us trade with you. Please, 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 we need gas. And also Serbia, and it looks like the other Balkans, don't particularly seem very interested in this conflict either. Bulgaria has also come out being a little bit skeptical, as they have a lot of economic links with Russia, especially when it comes to tourism, which is now dead. You know, everyone in England, they kind of go to Spain for summer vacation. Bulgaria used to be a hot spot for Russia's millionaires, but not anymore. So in some ways, it seems like Europe is almost divided. The more northern half of the European Union doesn't seem to be particularly worried or offended that there's been this new sort of great split, this new beginning of a Cold War 2.0, whereas the more south you get in the European Union, it seems like the locals are a lot more skeptical and a lot more willing to work with Russia. So I don't know if quite NATO is that strong, but the thing we have to remember, guys, is that NATO is really an organization that serves generally U.S. interests, sometimes British. The member nations of it may be member nations, but, you know, all the conflicts NATO's been in, who started them? It wasn't the Belgians or the, Bulgarians or whoever, the Italians who are starting foreign wars that serve their interests to bring wealth. No, they just sort of follow along with whatever Washington says. And so, again, this idea that NATO's been really strengthened, it's kind of debatable. I guess NATO's relevance has increased if you feel that Washington is awesome. If you really like Washington's foreign policy and you feel that that's been great for you, it's been great for the West, then yeah, this is probably a shining moment and proof that NATO is still needed. If you don't agree with what Washington's been doing over the last few generations, then this is just another example of how you've been suckered in to serving Washington's interests while you freeze in winter in your country, and while all the bread on your shelves just got a lot more expensive. So again, guys, this is sort of a matter of perception. So has Russia solidified NATO? Kind of yes, and kind of no. It really depends on how you look at things. But this is one of those classic time will tell moments, because we'll see. Will NATO, going forward, survive another 10, 20, 30, 40 years, when to a lot of people during the recent Trump presidency, it seemed completely irrelevant? Again, time will tell.